All right, everybody, welcome in brand new TSFS. Thank you for being here. You all know I do a daily pop culture podcast. We talk about everything under the sun. You know, we mostly cover TLC shows. I am known for that, from Sister Wives to Welcome to Plathville. And I have tea for you today on Welcome to Plathville. We do have an official video and confirmation they are filming season 8. It's true. Lydia Plath let it leak on her social media. So we're going to talk about that. And she also did a Q&A on her Instagram and revealed if Lydia and Zach are speaking to her family, how often they're hanging out, and have any of the Plath family members actually genuinely apologized for, you know, a whole season of basically asking if Zach was gay. Are you gay? I loved it. Every scene, Micah. Micah was kind of in on it, but Ethan Plath, I want to know, are you gay? I got some real problems with you marrying my sister because I think you're gay. I know. That was like the whole, and look, it was terrible. You know, you don't want anyone to go through that. But the guy's response was epic. Zach Weiss said, I'm straight as an arrow. I don't know if that's a convincing quote or not, but they want you to know that they are happy. They're in love. They're having more segs than all of us. They are apparently they are after it every night. Lydia Plath, by the way, on her Instagram revealed what she does for work. So I will tell you that because I actually thought she was becoming a full-time influencer, which I still think she is, but I'll tell you more about it. Okay, we're live on TikTok. I like to get to over 600 strong. Okay, we're near 200. Share the TikTok live right now. Send a gift. I am obsessed with you guys. If you read Kevin Federline's book, I want to know all your thoughts because today, in addition to the Welcome to Plathville tea, I am giving you the 5 most shocking parts of Kevin Federline's new memoir, which is a lot about Britney Spears, of course. And we'll talk obviously all that tea for Welcome to Plathville. And then I do have to tell you, I think Real Housewives of Salt Lake City right now is probably the best reality show on television. It is so good. It is so, so good. Okay, where should we start? We're on TikTok. Where do we want to start? Do we want to start with Welcome to Plathville news? Do we want to start with the Kevin Federline book review? Or do we want to start with how good Salt Lake City is? Let's hear it. He looks like Jesus on the cover. What's up with Plathville? Lydia Plath. Everybody wants to know with Plathville. Okay, let's start with Welcome to Plathville. First of all, we have a 100%. This is 100%. You've heard it here first. It is thanks to an amazing listener, Amanda. She sent me a video. Lydia Plath does a subscription-only Instagram. You can follow her on IG, Lydia Plath, okay? And then you have to pay for some of her videos. I ain't paying. Okay. I got roped into, y'all have heard me rant and rave about this, McKelty and Tony's Patreon from Sister Wives. Wah, wah. Now, sometimes they do reveal stuff, but I'm sorry, I'm not paying $15 a month or whatever it is to have the highest tier. They have like 3 kids. I get it. I have a child, another one on the way. And half the time they like don't do their lives. I ain't paying for it. Okay. I am not paying for Lydia Plath's subscription only reels. But Amanda does, and Amanda sent me the video proof that they are filming. I saw the TLC camera guy in the background. They are filming scenes with the family, with Lydia and Zach. So we are getting a season 8 of Welcome to Plathville, and I cannot wait. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a quick turnaround like first of next year, but we will see how it all goes down. She did a Q&A on her Instagram that was open and free. This is what she has to say. First of all, I forgot this, but Lydia Plath is a high-end server. She's a server at a high-end waitress. She's a server at a high-end waitress at a high-end restaurant in Florida. I had completely forgotten about that. So she says that she has a server job. She's been working there for a while. I believe Kim Plath works at the same place. Now, it's interesting to me, like, what do they have Kim Plath doing? Because, I mean, I wouldn't leave her near the bar. I'm just saying, you know, we all saw her in the last episode. Kim was like begging Barry to buy her a bottle of wine. The guy's like, too cheap to do that. He's like, oh, no, I bought you a bottle. And then he dashes out of the wine store and he only bought her like half a glass. So like, okay. So I don't know. I guess Kim is like a hostess at this restaurant, which is a good place for her. Don't put her behind the bar. You ain't gonna have one type of tequila left if she in charge. Okay, she goes on. Lydia Plath goes on to answer the tea. People are like, "Are you speaking to your family after all the gayness that they all the gay shade they gave to your husband, and how nasty they were? And even the night before your wedding, they staged an intervention and they said, 'We think Zach is gay, and you shouldn't marry him.'" This is what she wrote, okay? Lydia Plath now says that she has had some true healing with her family to the point that they now hang out about once a week. Oh boy. Olivia Plath said this would happen, and Olivia Plath was like, "Tell Lydia, stay away from the family." She says every single member of the Plath family has genuinely apologized to she and Zach. In fact, just the other night, the family stayed up until 3 a.m. talking about life and healing and how they can move forward from season 7 and all the gay accusations. So look at that. I guess they're getting the band back together. But those were the big things that people wanted to know. What she does for work, which I thought she was an influencer full time. She's not. And apparently she says that the family, that they hang out. They've genuinely apologized to Zach and they're moving forward. All right, we'll see how this plays out. I mean, do we now think this is what we're going to be getting for season 8? Season 8 is going to be the apology tour of this family. And we'll finally find out if Ethan and Tegan are still together or what. People are saying that Kim, the mom, is toxic. I do believe that is true. I also believe Barry is very toxic as well. I think Kim and Barry together, extremely toxic. Now, here's a name some of you might not want to hear, but do y'all remember Veronica Peters, Micah Plath's girlfriend? I thought she was toxic, out of line, out of pocket, but she made season 7. She was so crazy. She's now working for Ryan Serhant. You know Ryan Serhant from Bravo and the Serhant Real Estate Group? She just signed on down in Florida to be their new agent. And their press release that they put out says that Veronica Peters in the Delray Beach office, that's where she's going to be working, that she's closed more than $88 million in career sales. She joins the firm from Premier Estate Properties, where she has been a Boca Raton-based agent since 2021. So she's now working for Ryan Serhant. I mean, is there a world where Veronica Peters is now on Bravo? Can we imagine? Can we imagine? Now, if you're asking yourself, how did Veronica Peters pull off $88 million in business? You do realize Veronica Peters' stepfather, and I don't even know if they're actually officially married, but they've been together a long time. Veronica Peters' mom dates Ariana Grande's daddy. Who's your daddy? Well, it happens to be Ariana Grande's dad. Yeah. So I'm sure he has a lot of connections and his help. She's also probably a very good agent, FYI. But it certainly helps when Ariana Grande's dad is your stepfather. Okay, let's talk about Salt Lake City, and then we'll talk fully about this book that's been getting some buzz, but mostly hate. You Thought You Knew, K-Fed's memoir, okay? Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. If you are not watching, this is the greatest show, the greatest reality show right now out on television. That and probably Seeking Sister Wife. I need to start reviewing Seeking Sister Wife because it's so good. So good. Salt Lake City this week when they're on the yacht, you guys, this is giving me White Lotus vibes. It's giving me Bravo circa like when Teresa threw a table. It is giving the perfect amount of angry women fighting, but not over the top, ridiculousness of Bronwyn's outfits. Brittany Bateman, I know Andy Cohen just was on Call Her Daddy and says that Bateman is the thirstiest for fame of all the housewives, but she is so good in the mix. There is something so juvenile about her. Did any of you guys ever have a friend growing up who was perpetually 15? She brought a fucking stuffed animal unicorn with a voice message from Jared her boyfriend, who's one of the Osmond family members, who like could care less about her. She brings a stuffed animal unicorn with his voice to sleep with. You guys, you can't make this up. You can't. Bronwyn comes onto the boat in the most ridiculous outfit, like looking like a floaty. You guys, it is so good. It's the best reality television we have seen in decades. Like, my hat is off to them. They need to win an Emmy, and the Sister Wives group needs to win an Emmy from last year. It is so phenomenal. It is so phenomenal. So get on board. Okay. Let's talk about Kevin Federline's book for a second. I have wanted to read this because people hate Kevin Federline. They hate K-Fed, Brittany's ex, despite the fact that, personally, I think we got the Free Britney movement completely wrong. I mean, I don't think anyone, I don't know who would look at her Instagram and go, you know what? Free Britney was a success. Glad to be a part of that movement. It is frightening. And honestly, it's sad. And I read Brittany's latest book herself, okay, The Woman in Me, which came out, I think, about a year ago. Actually, I was impressed with the book. I was. Did it tell everything about her life? No, not really. Very easy read, much as K-Fed's book is. But, I respected Brittany a bit more. I think I kind of what I understood about Brittany? Her family history of mental illness and addiction. And I think how Brittany got to where she is, okay, where Britney Spears got. So Kevin's book, you thought you knew. When you read this, you ain't gonna have a clue. Like, it is, he actually reveals a lot. Now let's talk. I love to talk trash. I love to talk shit. Let's talk about the negative before we talk about the positive. First of all, I don't know what publisher, this seems like I published this book. Listeninbooks.com is the publisher. Are they even, this looks self-published to me. I'm going to be honest. Okay. And the picture on the cover is so unflattering of him. He's actually not a bad looking guy. We all recall back in the day. But this is like, I think it's supposed to be him stripped down and raw, but it is not attractive. His beard is not particularly like well trimmed. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe it's supposed to represent that he's like been through the ringer and this is where he's at. But the book, so that was a little like, nobody wanted to publish this, like a major publisher. And again, maybe he made a ton of money from self-publishing, okay? Maybe he's made so much money off it. But it just, to me, is a little, it doesn't look polished, I will say that. So the book takes you through a little bit of his childhood. He was a very rebellious kid, got into drugs when he was like in high school, like a lot of kids. Was a bit of a broccoli dealer for a while. He was growing the old broccoli. And I didn't realize this, but his mom is also a broccoli dealer and I think like still is, sort of taught him how to grow broccoli and then transport it in his car. I'm like, okay, this doesn't sound like an amazing like family life, but okay. So he has some run-ins with the law and some really close calls when he's hanging out with this horrible crew. He's born and raised on the West Coast, and he decides he's going to move to LA to pursue dancing. That's what he always wanted to do. And basically, he came to LA and became pretty popular in the dance world really quickly, had a ton of success. And then, of course, that's how he's introduced to Britney Spears, right? And so we spend a little bit of time talking about like how, they met and that things were good initially, but pretty quickly, because these two are like 24 years old when they meet each other, things go south in like an epic way, as we all recall, right? Britney shaving her head, taking the umbrella. Remember their reality show, Chaotic? He actually admits in the book, I mean, he made a ton of money from Chaotic. In fact, he makes so much money from Chaotic, he and Britney buy a home in Malibu and he's able to pay half the mortgage. So they actually own that house together. So it takes you through that. And then the majority of the book, of course, is his life with Britney Spears, giving us a refresh of how he made money and raised his sons. And then the final couple chapters of the book are his thoughts on the Free Britney movement, on Lynn Spears, on Jamie Spears, and on the entire family. Okay, so in no particular order, here are the 5 most shocking. Now, let me tell you some of the things that have been in the headlines, which are in there. When he first starts dating Brittany, they're on tour. He catches her in a hotel room with one of the other female dancers. They're like making out and going at it. Okay. Brittany had a very free spirit, is what he said. And so essentially, it really bothered him to see her hooking up with a woman, but they have a deep conversation. He ends up kind of forgiving her, and they're going to commit to each other and their relationship. Okay. So that part is in there. Then, I didn't realize this too. All right. Well, let me get to my 5. So number one of the most shocking moments for me of this book is how he paints Brittany as taking no accountability for her life and essentially blames Jamie and Lynn Spears as parents for setting her up from the time she was like 6 years old to never being accountable, to essentially like catering to Brittany to the point that not only is Brittany, this is like his story. Not only is Brittany an addict and mentally ill, but she's also basically been so coddled and spoiled since she was little that she, at this point, she's the perpetual victim. Okay. I didn't expect him to say that. I really hadn't heard that angle about Britney Spears, but he sort of says to us as the reader, start looking at her social media. Look at her social media. Look at how she lashes out. Read her books. There's never any true accountability for her actions. She might say, oh, I shouldn't have dated this person or whatever, but it's never like I actually did these incidents. And what I did to my kids or whatever, by using drugs, I completely fried my brain. Like there's never any accountability. Okay. So I was surprised by that because I'd never heard somebody paint Brittany in that way. I also had never heard anybody paint Brittany as having mental illness, being an addict, because he talks a lot about her use of illicit stuff, everything from the pasta. Y'all know what the pasta is. Okay, I can't say it. I'm live on TikTok. That's why I'm talking in code. If you're listening to the podcast, you're like, bitch, just say the names. Everybody knows what the pasta is. Google what that is in terms of illicit usage. She was a big time pasta user, big time drinker, and mixing a lot of other things. Okay, probably prescription medications, antidepressants, all the other things. All right. The second big thing is he outs her as using pasta while breastfeeding her children and drinking alcohol during her pregnancy, drinking alcohol and mixing pills like antidepressants that she might have been taking or, other like drugs. And then she was also drinking. And he actually admits, he says that he knew she was drinking alcohol during the pregnancy, but she'd been so stressed, under so much pressure, that he sort of let it slide because he knew that she kind of needed some escape, which I thought was like, dang, dude, like you're okay with that? He says that when he had an album release party was the final straw. This was after, Jaden and Preston are their kids. Preston was the oldest one, I believe. Jaden was the younger one. I think I'm getting the order correct. After their second son was born, 6 weeks old, she attends his album party, uses the pasta, and then goes home to feed the baby. I'm like, dang. Okay. I will say this about this book. Now, a lot of people do not believe his side of the story. To me, I think if you read her book, her life, Britney Spears' life, the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? Obviously, I thought he was actually quite kind to her in the book, but there's not a lot of love loss, right? Like he's been through the ringer with her is what he says. I think hence why he looks so bad on the cover. I don't know why. I would think you'd want like a triumphant picture, but he looks like he's stripped down and Lord. Thought he was actually quite kind to her, but obviously, he has a lot of resentment towards the way she treated the kids. I mean, he basically says she was like off her rocker nuts when they were together. And like, and even under the conservatorship with custody of the boy, she was like crazy, psychologically abusive to them. I mean, whacked, right? So he has obviously a skewed version, but he reveals the details he reveals in this book. Like I was actually shocked because most of the time when you get these memoirs, they kind of tell like one story here, two stories there. This dude goes in from her girl on girl hookup, using the pasta and then breastfeeding their kid, drinking while pregnant. Oh my God, the abuse that these boys suffered. And again, this is his side of the story. And so far, she hasn't sued him. I'm just saying. A lot of people are saying, okay, well, he's full of it. He wants to sell books. Well, where's the lawsuit? He also says, the boys, this psychological yelling and screaming, they recorded multiple incidents over their childhood of her. It's very bipolar. If you've ever had somebody in your life bipolar, you all know this. I worked with a very bipolar coworker. One day he would be like the sweetest thing you've ever, so nice, kind, generous to you. And the next he'd be throwing keys at your head, yelling and screaming. And you're like, literally, what did I do? K-Fed says their boys were on eggshells, the way that she would show up unannounced, trying to take them, or like the time that she held Jaden in a bathroom. And then that was, of course, when she was dragged away to a psych ward, which he says was one of the hardest things he's ever had to witness. Okay. So number one is how little accountability Brittany allegedly takes in her life. Number two is using the pasta and breastfeeding her son. Number three, the whole family is basically batshit crazy. I also thought this was pretty good of K-Fed now that the boys are older, right? He doesn't have any child support to deal with. Jaden and Preston are on their own. They're 19 and 20. They're older than that probably now, 21, 22, and 21. He says the entire family are complete whack jobs. Jamie, from Jamie Spears to, it's not funny. It's really not funny. But I did think that was like honest, right? Because I think, a lot of people on here, you want to say that about your ex-in-laws. So he says that, first of all, Jamie Spears, he believes, started out, and see, I think this is what people will like. He's pretty fair, I think, in his assessment of the Free Britney movement. He was in favor of it at first. He thought she was getting better. He thought the conservatorship was a great idea at first. She was getting better. She was doing pretty well. But basically, he says throughout the conservatorship, things went downhill. And it especially went downhill when Jamie Spears, the dad, started drinking again while also managing Brittany in her conservatorship. And that's when like all hell broke loose. Remember, he got a restraining order against Jamie Spears. That's when it all went to hell. So he basically says that Jamie Spears, he would never want to trade places with Jamie, that Jamie has had an impossible life and an impossible task of trying to wrangle Brittany. And he says that Jamie himself is a complete alcoholic. Maybe he's sober now, maybe he's not. And, also had a lot of trauma in his life. And so the family thrives, and all these years the Spears family has never been able to quiet that chaos, and so they'll yell, scream at each other, they'll invite each other over and then kick each other out. He said it's just, you can't, even like the boys, they're so hesitant about, the only one that they like being around is Jamie Lynn. Brian, the brothers, whack job. He basically says all of them, they all participate in this kind of never-ending trauma bonding cycle. And he calls out Lynn Spears. He says that Lynn Spears, while nice, while loves her kids and tried, that basically Lynn was the greatest enabler of Brittany from the beginning. And that the entire family, it was like Brittany was the star, whatever Brittany needed, and they never said no to Brittany. And unfortunately, K-Fed believes part of her downfall and mental illness is she has continued to find yes people around her that go, yeah, it's not your fault. You don't need to take accountability. And to this day, he says that she has never admitted to being an addict in any way or having a mental health issue. I had never heard that about Brittany. That I thought was new. Okay, number 4 of the 5 most shocking revelations for me, I didn't realize that K-Fed has 6 kids. What? Y'all remember Shar Jackson? He had 2 kids with Shar Jackson, 2 with Britney Spears, 2 with Vic, his current wife. They're actually still together. And they've been together for like over a decade. They live in Hawaii together. I didn't realize he had 6 kids. And from the time that K-Fed was a young man, he would tell his parents he wanted like 6 to 8 children. So his dream came true. He always wanted to be a dad of a lot of kids. Well, you achieved that goal, sir. Okay, my number 5 most shocking moment of this book, Kevin Federline's You Thought You Knew, is it's very bizarre. But he says that the boys got to the point they no longer wanted to see Brittany after they would wake up at night when they were staying with her, and she would be just standing in their doorway or in their room with a knife. What? What? Yeah. He says that she would stand in the room with a knife. They would wake up and they'd be like, "Mom, what are you doing?" And she'd be like, "Oh, just checking on you." And she had the knife in her hands. He talks about her fascination with knives, and that at one point, and I think this has been out there, that Jamie Spears had to lock up all the knives in the house because she had an obsession with stabbing furniture with knives. Okay. It is, we've jumped the shark on, like it's not good. It's really not good. Now, Kevin Federline also gives some insight into the conservatorship towards the end. He actually credits that there's a lawyer, not the one. Remember, there was a woman that like everybody came for the Free Britney movement. I don't recall her name, but he does say at one point there was a really great lawyer that was kind of managing her conservatorship. And he actually believes that lawyer had great intentions for her, was trying to get her help. But ultimately, over and over, while in the conservatorship and without, Brittany has refused help on any level, which I think we can see, right? Now, at the end of the book, he's gotten a lot of backlash for this too, but he wants the Free Britney movement to move to Save Britney. And basically, at the end of this memoir, he makes a prediction that he and his sons believe it is not going to end well for Brittany. That, he doesn't, of course, say like, something bad's going to happen to her. But basically, he says he and his sons are preparing for the worst. And the hardest part is now, because Brittany has refused help from any family members. Jamie won't get involved because he's obviously been demonized. The courts, he believes like the courts want nothing to do with it because the public backlash has been so bad that it falls on his 2 sons. And he says his 2 sons they've been in therapy, they've gotten help over the years, and they are preparing for the worst. I mean, it's a little dark, basically, to what she's at now. And he sort of asks fans to shift to Save Brittany, that maybe the fans that freed her can get through to her that things are really bad. He basically says she surrounds herself with horrible people. He doesn't know if she's still like using substances or not, because the boys really don't want to talk to her. They don't feel safe around her. He obviously doesn't. And he just says like, I'm preparing everybody for the worst. You guys, super easy read, only about 217 pages. And it was fascinating. And I do have to say, I mean, I'm sure his account is probably somewhat accurate. Again, something, there's truth in the middle. And I think for Brittany, the saddest part, right, is I think I read this book, and as a mother, she pretty quickly, when her boys were little, they were taken away from her. Probably when she was like postpartum, she's having mental health issues mixed with all the substances that she's using. And then having your children taken away that to me is that probably sent her off to the deep end in a way that, only mothers that have been there can really understand. And I think when I read this book again, you're talking about somebody, Brittany, who is so, like, it was probably the perfect storm, right? She already in her family is predisposed to mental illness, because she talks about that in her own book. And then she lives in this chaotic family where Jamie and Lynn were divorced and back together, and he was drinking and not drinking, and they fight. And then, so there's never been any stability. You mix that with insane fame, and then with partying and all the party substances. And I mean, he talks about Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton being enablers in the book. I mean, it's really like, when I tell you he actually names names and says stuff, I'm like, I got to give him credit for that. But I did feel like she just never had anybody in her camp. And again, he says she did have people in her camp that really wanted to help her. She just would never take the help, ever, ever, ever. And basically, they set her up to be kind of a spoiled star from the beginning. And now, unfortunately, Jamie and Lynn have reaped what they've sowed to an extent. But I thought it was heartbreaking to see a woman, as a mom, have her sons taken away. And it's just never been the same. Now, his argument is, they had to take them away because for the boys' safety. Like, it was so bad. She would hire and fire nannies constantly, security people, yell and scream. But, to me, it's like, I hope it ends well for Brittany too. And he does wish her peace at the end of the book. He says that he and the boys hope, she finds peace, happiness. They're always here for her. Again, she, of course, feels differently, but, he wants her to be okay. So, I mean, the story of Britney Spears not done yet. Hopefully it does end well. But I was very curious about this book to see his side of it. Of course, I was in aughts. I grew up in the late 90s, early aughts. So K-Fed and Britney and Justin Timberlake. I mean, he does say too, I think this is part of where Britney is at today is like, it's a perfect storm of so many things. But he also says that she never got over Justin Timberlake. Like, that was the love of her life. And just a couple days before they got married, she confessed to like calling Justin, and he believes to this day that's really the person she was madly in love with. It's such a sad life. So I hope Britney can find peace. I believe the founders or whatever of Free Britney have said they will not shift to Save Britney. Okay. Why they wouldn't, who knows? I think because Free Britney's been such a mess, but there you have it. All right, let's go to the TikTok lines, take some of your feedback. Did anybody else read the book that's on TikTok? What are your thoughts? What about the record label? What the record label did to her? Yeah, I mean, I think definitely. Look, she has been groomed to be a child star since she was 10 years old. And according to K-Fed, the parents, like, they never said no. They never said no to her. They encouraged the whole thing. Nothing wrong with loving Justin Timberlake. Oh, wait, I know. Is he tied to her through the kids? He doesn't want his kids to watch their mom die. Yeah, he basically makes a plea at the end to hopefully for people to save Britney, and that he and his sons are preparing for the worst because any care is going to now fall on his two sons because the family basically, according to him, they've done what they can. They're like kind of washed their hands of it. She never seemed mentally well. I think that's right. And, like he said, like the other thing that was really fascinating about this book, he was saying, and this reminds me of Michael Jackson, because I think when you're thrust into huge, not just like a little fame, I mean, insane fame like they were, you're almost like you stop growing like that age when you become famous. Like to me, Michael Jackson was perpetually like a 14-year-old boy or like a 12-year-old. He was like always Peter Pan. He talks about like the boys being like 4 or 5 years old. She would still want to put them in diapers and give them passies. Like she would want, and he'd be like, okay, Brittany, we can't, like Preston's like 5 or 6 years old. He doesn't need a passy, but she would want him to get in a diaper and a passy. And I'm sure it's because like, probably for her, there was so much lost in her childhood. Oh, by the way, too, as people are asking what accountability K-Fed takes in the book. I mean, K-Fed also admits to a lot of like, he does, I will say this would be my critique. He paints himself as like a great father, right? But then he talks about when the boys are little, he's out partying all the time with Scott Storch. Remember Scott Storch? Who, by the way, would be a great interview. I mean, the guy's crazy. He's partying a lot. He was using the pasta himself and doing crazy things in LA, paying for strippers, paying for everything else. So he does admit, like, he sort of had this come to Jesus moment when the boys got a little older, like, I can't live my life like this, which is when he ends up meeting Vic and moves to Hawaii. But the guy is also like participating in this insane world. Did he admit to introducing her to new rugs? I can't remember. Did he say that? I mean, he talks about them doing those things together, that he did them before, he did them after her. He's not proud of that behavior. I don't know that he specifically says that he introduced her, but he talks about them both doing it. Can you compare their relationship to Whitney and Bobby, where Bobby Brown was seen as the bad boy? Ooh, yes, I think you're right. There's definitely some comparisons there, for sure. For sure. Khaleesi says the whole thing is sad. Did he talk about the reality show they did? Yes, Melissa, he talks about Chaotic, which he made quite a bit of money off, and it was chaotic. That's just like people with trauma. She acts like people. Yeah, I mean, it's really sad. Like, I believe the parts that I believed is everything he said about the Spears family. I'm like, yeah, 100%. How many kids did he have before Britney? So he had 2 kids before Britney with Shar Jackson. If you all remember, she was kind of a popular, I think, like dancer, kind of MTV, VH1 girl. And then he has 2 with Britney and 2 after. So 6 kids. Forgot. Woo! And he basically says he had to go on like the fat shows where they try to like, not Biggest Loser, but Celebrity Fit Club. He had to do all those shows to make money to pay for his kids. Okay. How many kids did he have? Okay. Shar was an actress. Oh, thank you. Okay. She had a pretty great career too going on. So there you go. Anyhow, if you've been curious about the Kevin Federline memoir, there it is. 5 most shocking parts of it. And of course, I think we all want our girl Brittany to be well, but he does not give a very good prediction of how he thinks it's going to end. All right. Love you all. By the way, if you've ever thought about having your own podcast, do you have a podcast? Do you want to make more money? Do you want to start a podcast and talk about ridiculous things like K-Fed's memoir? It's my entire living. Get on board. I have a course, gobigpodcasting.com. Use the promo code all of October, Halloween 15 for 15% off. I have a podcasting 101 course that is less than $9 with the code, all the way up to the 6-figure master plan, which tells you how to create a podcast that becomes a 6-figure to 7-figure income stream. And that's either by being a funnel, doing it daily like I do. But basically, I show you the tips and tricks and how podcasters end up quitting because it's a lot of work. And if you don't know how to monetize from the start, it can be very challenging. GoBigPodcasting.com and the promo code is Halloween 15. Okay. Bye, everybody.